Senator from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to discuss the facts about the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. That was my first reconciliation process as a new U.S. Senator. It was a great experience. I very much enjoyed the 36 hours straight of no sleep. I think that was a record for me. But we got a lot accomplished. And I want to share with you and the people of Ohio about why I believe it's a good bill and why I supported it. Because the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, as it's known, was uniquely tailored to support Ohio workers and families. I really believe that it serves them well, and the facts support it. First of all, I think it's important to reflect on why it was necessary. The budget law that we passed extended the 2017 tax cuts, which were going to expire. They needed to be renewed. It also made important investments in national defense and border security. But if we had failed to pass it, we would have seen a $4 trillion tax hike on the American people, something that would have been devastating for their pocketbooks and our economy. I believe that people and states do a good job of spending the money that they have. I believe that people will spend smarter when they have more money in their pockets, rather than putting that money in the control of the federal government. I come to this conclusion based on both my life experiences and 25 years in state government in Ohio. And it's from that perspective I want to focus on what I believe the Big Beautiful Bill means in real-world terms for Ohio families, workers, and taxpayers. The BBB results in more take-home pay for Ohioans, more money in their pockets. More take-home pay means independence. Government dependency means less independence. And that's why this bill focuses on really allowing workers to keep more of the money they earn. Let's dig into this a bit. The tax cuts were cemented for workers and job creators will leave the average Ohio household with an estimated $7,000 more in take-home pay. And more specifically, the Council of Economic Advisors estimates the bill will increase take-home pay for the average family with 2 kids in Ohio from between $6,900 a family to up to $11,700 per family. That's more after-tax wages. Taxes going down, wages going up, more money in your pockets. That's what it means. And we made no tax on tips and no taxes on overtime a reality. Ohioans work hard, and that's a change that they can feel legitimately in their pockets. I was on a telephone town hall last night. One of the ladies who called in said, "Hey, I want you to know, my husband, he's a line worker. He works a lot of overtime for the utility company. And that eliminating tax on overtime pay will mean a lot to our family, more take-home pay." I understood that. It's another aspect of the bill. It's very important for working people. We increased the child tax credit up to $2,200 per child. If we'd failed to do this, it would have dropped down to $1,000. It's now up to $2,200 per child. And that benefit alone will serve 1.3 million Ohio families. It's good for them. It's good for families with children who are trying to make ends meet. It's just another part of this bill that makes life easier for them. We also made this standard deduction permanent, $31,500 for couples, $15,750 for single filers. Who does that affect? Just 5.3 million Ohioans who will benefit from that increase. We also remembered Ohio's seniors by expanding their annual deduction to $6,000. I know I heard from many Ohio seniors as this bill was traveling through the process that said, "Hey, do this for us." It's tough for many seniors who are on fixed incomes, trying to make ends meet, pay property taxes. Every little bit helps, and we help those senior citizens by increasing their annual deduction. And we need to remember what would have happened to workers and families if we had failed. It's always the other side of every piece of legislation. Okay, what's in it? Well, what would happen if we didn't get the job done? Well, that would have meant for the average American family of four earning $80,000 a year that they would have owed an additional $1,700 in taxes. The savings delivered for the Ohio household, an average Ohio household, is even bigger. For Ohioans, it would have been $2,140. It's a big flip. What you would have lost, what you're now getting in return, what you're saving. Our work is creating more Ohio jobs. It's always on the top of my mind. I've always believed that if you have a good job, you have a good economy, you can pay your mortgage, buy a car, save for your future. Frankly, that's just part of the American dream. And so when we're creating jobs, we're creating opportunity. We're creating that pathway for the American dream, and we do this in the bill. I'm going to brag about Ohio for a minute, if you would allow me, Mr. President, because recently we were named the 5th best state in the country to do business. I know we compete against states around this country and around the world, and Ohio's gone a long way, from the 39th worst state to the 5th best in the nation. And I was very proud to take part in that when I was lieutenant governor and speaker of the House. But that's good for our state, but what about our entire country? How do we make it so that businesses are going to perform better, particularly for small businesses? What did we do in the bill? A 20% small business tax deduction. All adds up. Small businesses have to make tough choices. And when you have this predictability, when you know you're going to get, instead of a tax increase, a tax cut, then you start to think, okay, I don't have to close the doors. I might be able to hire a new person. Those benefits that I was worried about, whether I could provide health care or not, I can do that now. All of that benefits when businesses have the predictability and they know that their tax bill is not going to go up, it's going to go down. And almost all Ohio businesses are organized as small businesses, and they will be able to get access to this. That's 842,000 Ohio job creators that would have lost that deduction if we had not passed the bill. And it's estimated that the One Big Beautiful Bill alone is projected to create 1.2 million new U.S. jobs a year over the next decade. Those numbers can fluctuate, but the bottom line is it's good for job creation, it's good for America, it's good for the American workforce, it's good for the American worker. I want to talk about manufacturing for a minute. We talk about made in America. We want to do more made in America. Well, I always say this about Ohio. You can't do made in America without made in Ohio, because we are literally part of the American supply chain. So what's good for manufacturing is good for the state of Ohio. And to that end, we made sure that this legislation gave job creators the freedom to immediately expense investments in new factories, capital investments in machinery and equipment, and research and development. No, that's not something that the average person sees directly, but it's something that their employer does. It's something that their employer knows that they now have predictability to how to allocate their capital, that they can afford to invest in new machinery and equipment. And when you invest in new machinery and equipment, what's it do? It makes you more competitive on a global stage, puts you in a position that you can hire people, compete, open new markets, improve the quality of the product that you have, so that not only can you outcompete your competitors, but you can win and create jobs. This is a big boom for states like Ohio. It helps our manufacturing culture, and it's important. Another piece of the big, beautiful bill that a lot of people might not know about, is something that I care a lot about. For decades of my life, I have been working on issues surrounding workforce development. How do we help people get the skills they need to compete for the jobs of today and tomorrow, to earn higher pay, to have job security? And in many cases, we want to do this without having the cost of going to college. We want to help people earn credentials that lead to jobs without the cost or the debt that oftentimes college creates. Well, in this bill, we allow for Pell Grants to be used for workforce credentials to land good jobs. And I know I have something in here that I received from the Ohio Association of Community Colleges and some college trustees, or some community college trustees, that talk about how it will help them expand workforce programs to the people of our state. It's a good, positive change that we made, allowing Pell Grants to be used for workforce credentials, not just for college. It also will help families from an educational point at the K through 12 level. We talk Pell Grants post-secondary level. Let's talk about the K through 12 level. One of the things I did when I was Speaker of the House in Ohio was to create the Ed Choice Scholarship, which allows now, at the time it was 4,000 students, now it's over 100,000 students can go to a school of their choice using that program. But I know it's still not enough. We can still do more to support families who want, with their own wisdom and freedom, to be able to choose a place to send their child. Because frankly, there's not a decision that you make as a parent or a guardian about the future of your child, frankly, that may be more important than the school that they attend. Maybe from an academic reason, it may be for a workforce reason, but it could be for a values reason, that you want your child to attend a particular school. It could be for a safety reason. This creates a school choice tax credit that will help create more scholarship opportunities for parents and children to attend a school of their choice. And then finally, something that's very near and dear to me, the big beautiful bill supports Ohio families and vulnerable children by making the adoption tax credit partially refundable up to $5,000. And as an adoptee, somebody who started my life in a foster home, it's important to me that for a child who's looking for the support of a forever family, that now we made it just a little bit easier for them to find that family, to support that family. It's a really important component of the bill. Every little bit helps when you're trying to support a family. Now I want to talk a little bit about things that are being said about the bill that just aren't true as it relates to my state. I'm going to start with Medicaid. There are some whoppers of a lie being told about Medicaid right now. And frankly, it's bothersome because I believe in many cases these lies are being used to scare some of the most vulnerable people in our society. Pregnant mothers, children living in poverty, people with disabilities, the elderly. I want you to know you are protected. You are protected. This bill supports strengthening Medicaid to make sure those services are there for you, the people that the program was originally designed to serve. I want you to know that Ohioans will have access to more health care resources because of the big, beautiful bill than ever before. Let me explain this, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. Some people are scared and they deserve to know the truth about it. This package is sending more Medicaid dollars and more support to rural hospitals in Ohio than ever before. That is a fact. Ohio has historically been one of the more responsible states in its approach to Medicaid. We haven't maxed out some of the tools that states have available to them to draw down funding on Medicaid. That means that Ohio taxpayers have been subsidizing states like California, who have been drawing down a maximum amount of federal dollars and, frankly, using them to pay for health care for people who aren't even citizens of the United States, in many cases even for illegal immigrants. Those should not be the priority of the American taxpayer, and certainly not a priority for the Ohio taxpayer. And this budget bill levels the playing field in that respect. I'm going to give you a little more detail on it because I think this is important. Not only do I want to share with you the facts about how Medicaid is being supported, but how. First, in Ohio, the state government, the governor, and the legislature raised the provider tax, which they were allowed to do under this bill. And in doing so, they are going to be able to draw down 60% more Medicaid funding as a result of that provision. What does that mean practically for Ohio hospitals? It means for most hospitals in Ohio, they will receive 24% more reimbursement than they did the previous year. And as a result, Ohio will be, frankly, taking in more Medicaid money than ever to serve those populations. Those are facts. I have received numerous pieces of communications from hospitals around the state of Ohio. This is one from 4 rural hospitals, thanking Senator Moreno and myself for what is in the bill, what's in the big, beautiful bill, because it's helping them in those rural hospitals make ends meet. And that doesn't even include the third priority that we worked on, which is a rural health transformation fund that makes available $50 billion over the next 5 years to support rural hospitals. Ohio's going to receive its first windfall from that amount of money, $1.3 billion for our rural hospitals, and it's going to help them because I know that they struggle from time to time. Sometimes their business model does not work as well as it does in a more heavily populated area. But it's important that we know those facts to be true and that the scare tactics are wrong. That people who know, who have depended on Medicaid should know it's going to be there for them. And nationally, even though Ohio will be getting an additional amount of funding on Medicaid, the whole country, every state will be receiving additional funding because Medicaid budget increases by 3% a year long into the future. And changes like these are significant. But I want Ohioans to know that they are protected and that their hard-earned money that they've been using to fund Medicaid will no longer go to things that I know they don't approve of, which is paying for health care services for people who are in this country illegally. I know that according to CMS, all of the projected federal taxpayer losses under the provider tax that have happened across the country, 95% of those losses come from 4 states, California, Michigan, Massachusetts, and New York, who've been maxing out the credit card of this country through the way that they operate their Medicaid programs. Every state does it differently. Some states are more responsible than others, and we need to have a system that protects the long-term interest of our Medicaid program. Ohio shouldn't be punished for their bad policies, and this bill levels that playing field. So I want to reemphasize that Medicaid for children living in poverty and those with disabilities and caretakers for elderly Ohioans, you're protected. Don't be scared by the lies. The truth is that no one that Medicaid was designed to serve will see benefit cuts. Now, you may have heard people will say, well, some folks are going to lose their benefits. I want to share some facts on this. It was in the Wall Street Journal, I believe today, that showed that we have 2.8 million people in this country who are dually enrolled in Medicaid, meaning they're in one state and another, which means what are we doing? We're paying Medicaid premiums for the same individual in multiple states. It's a waste of money. Frankly, it's hard to believe that this has not been cracked down on before because, this money that we're talking about is hard-earned tax dollars in a country that has a $37 trillion national debt, and here we see it wasted in this program. Not to mention that there is a high number of people on the program who are not even eligible, further jeopardizing the long-term sustainability of the program. And then finally, I want to talk about something I've been working on for quite a while. I know when the federal government under Obamacare put in place the Medicaid expansion population, it provided free health care, provided free benefits, generously provided by the hardworking people of this nation for healthy adults who are able-bodied, who didn't have children. And this bill says that if you're a healthy adult who's able-bodied, without young children, that now you're going to have to work 20 hours a week in return for your benefits. That seems to be a pretty reasonable request. It's part of the social contract that if you can contribute to your own success in life, that you should do that. People of this country are generous and good-hearted, and they want to make sure that people in need have access to health care. But if you're capable of working and you just refuse to do so, now you're going to have to start doing something in return for those benefits. And that means you can get an education, committing 20 hours a week to your education. You can volunteer at the library, cleaning up trash in your local park. Or you can get a job and start to build your career, start to contribute to your own independence in life. And it's a simple request that most people in this country support. I know Ohioans support it, that if you're going to receive generous, free health care from your neighbor, that you should do something in return if you're capable of doing it. And in this big, beautiful bill, we now have that standard in place for the people of this country. I also want to add that in the bill, we made communities across this country in Ohio much safer by securing the border. Big investments in making sure that we secure the southern border. We don't let drugs, people who are not legally allowed to be in this country, come across. But we also did it at the northern border. Ohio has a northern border, Lake Erie. There's money in there to prevent some of the things that we've seen even at our northern border. But this failure at our southern border has led to millions of people coming into this country illegally. People like Luis Nala Candelario. Earlier this year, he was arrested in Ohio. He was a criminal, alien from Ecuador, was not legally allowed to be in this country, and he was wanted in his home country for murder. He was living in Pickerington, Ohio, not far from the city of Columbus. We have people all across this country who are here illegally, and there's money in this bill to find them, arrest them, and deport them, particularly those who've committed crimes either in their home country or in ours. And this will help support law enforcement to protect more communities around our nation and certainly in our state. The big, beautiful bill keeps America strong by investing hundreds of millions of dollars in Ohio manufacturers that produce the next generation of weapons. Also, our national security is supported in this bill. Our defense industry has done its part throughout the course of American history to defeat enemies around the globe. But every generation faces a new threat. We face threats from China, Iran, Russia, North Korea. And Ohio is a manufacturing state, and we are the heart of it all, but we are the heart of defense manufacturing in many ways. And this bill will help our state defend America and defend American interests. I actually toured recently a company in Ohio, actually it was late last year, that makes the bunker-busting bombs that were dropped in the very successful endeavor into Iran recently by our brave Air Force pilots and crew. That 30,000-pound bunker-busting bomb, along with many other weapons, are manufactured in our state. We're very proud to have a state that makes so many things that help preserve and maintain our freedom. And last but not least, we're also safeguarding our future by making sure that we're lowering our deficit. And I will say, I was concerned as the bill moved through the process about what was being said about it, about how it was going to exacerbate and add to our deficit. Because we were hearing a lot of people quoting the Congressional Budget Office, saying that it was going to add $3.4 trillion to the national debt. But when it was all said and done, and the Congressional Budget Office reviewed the law, the final assessment, it actually reduces the deficit by $366 billion. Good news. Right now, the United States taxpayers shelling out $1 trillion a year to pay interest on our debt, which also drives up our inflation, to help pay for our current debt and the benefits we protect. We need laws. We need legislators. We need leaders who are going to make sure that this is top of mind. And I have been and intend to be someone who thinks about those issues. And so while it's good news that we did not increase the deficit and that we brought it down mildly, modestly, there's still more work to do. I don't want to leave by saying that this is good enough. There is more work to do to preserve the future for our children and grandchildren by acting in a fiscally responsible way. Ohio's interest drove my work and support for this bill from start to finish, and it's clear that it will lead to more jobs, lower taxes, higher wages, and more freedom and prosperity for Ohioans. And that means that they can live their lives with more confidence and certainty for everyone who calls our state home. I know my colleagues will have many different takes on this bill, but this is what it does for my state. It's a good bill that supports Ohio workers. It's pro-growth, it's pro-family, and it's pro-Ohio. And I know that the working people of our state will benefit from what we accomplish in the passage of this legislation. Mr. President, I yield the floor.